We all know about Wilt Chamberlain's 100-point game and Steph Curry's 3-point record, and how Muggsy Bogues is the shortest player ever. But there are some players and teams that hold some of the wildest records in NBA history that you've probably never heard of. Like on December 13th, 1983, the Bad Boy Pistons were matched up against the Denver Nuggets in your typical regular season game. Little did the fans that night know, they were about to witness history. This game lasted a ridiculous 3 hours and 11 minutes, with a final score of 186 to 184, 370 total points. The most amount of points scored in an NBA game ever. The game went into triple overtime, and neither team could stop each other from scoring. The numbers don't even look real. 4 players this night scored over 40 points, and over 12 players were in the double digits. With the way that offenses are today, and how much less defenders get away with, you would think a record like this would be held more recently. When people talk about the 1980s defense, they make it seem like you had to survive being tackled and punched in the face just to get a bucket. And somehow, these teams still scored 180 points on each other. What may be even crazier is the lowest scoring game ever. In 1950, while the game was still very new, the Fort Wayne Pistons were matched up against the Minneapolis Lakers. In case you didn't realize how much the game has changed since then, yes, they used to be the Fort Wayne Pistons and the Minneapolis Lakers. And in a rather disappointing game, the final score was 19-18, a combined 37 points. But we all know how the NBA was in the 50s. Teams played slow, unadvanced, and overall trash basketball. And it's no surprise they weren't able to score a lot back then. But what happened to the Oklahoma City Thunder just 2 years ago quite literally may just be the most embarrassing loss in NBA history. On December 2nd, 2021, the Memphis Grizzlies were matched up against the Oklahoma City Thunder. The Thunder were having a pretty rough year, and it was obvious the Memphis Grizzlies were probably going to take home the W on their home floor. But nobody could have expected the Grizzlies to absolutely dominate and embarrass the Thunder this game. The Thunder quite literally took the biggest L in NBA history, losing by 73 points with a final score of 152-79. The craziest part being, the Grizzlies didn't even have their star player this game. Ja Morant was out with an injury, and they were still able to put up a performance like this. Over 9 players on the Grizzlies scored over double digits, and they set a franchise record for the most points scored in a single game. When you go into the details of how this game went down, it seriously makes you question what happened to this Thunder team. This wasn't even 10 years after Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook, and James Harden were on the team. Fast forwarding less than a decade later, they are getting destroyed by the Grizzlies at an all-time, never seen before magnitude. The Grizzlies bench even outscored the entire Thunder roster 93-79. And I just know that the Thunder locker room was awkward that night. Trades are a big part of the NBA today, and it seems like players get traded and switch to different teams now more than ever. Loyalty is lost in basketball, and Ish Smith is the biggest example of this. In his 13-year career, he has been on 13 different teams. 13 years, 13 teams. This man has almost been a part of half the teams in the NBA. Luckily for him, he joined the Denver Nuggets this past season and won his first NBA championship coming off the bench. It may have taken him 13 different teams, but he finally accomplished something most NBA players never will. A NBA player fouling out doesn't usually happen. Of course, in intense games and moments, things happen. And a lot of times, referees will just call BS just because they feel like it. So when players foul out, it's usually around the 4th quarter. I mean, to commit 6 fouls in one game, you've got to be playing some minutes, right? Well, you guys have yet to meet the legend, Bubba Wells. Bubba Wells only played 39 games in his entire career and averaged around 3 points a game. But despite him being a pretty below average player, Bubba Wells holds a record that I do not see being broken anytime soon. This man fouled out of a game faster than any NBA player has before. When considering you need to commit 6 fouls in order to foul out of a game, and also considering the 24-second shot clock and the overall speed that the game is going at, and the amount of possessions you're actually playing defense, how long do you think it took Bubba Wells to foul out? Take a second to think, maybe a little before halftime, or maybe even in the first quarter. Nope, even less. It took Bubba Wells 3 minutes to foul out. 3 minutes. Most players don't have 1 foul in 3 minutes of play. Bubba never scored the most or won anything in the NBA, but nobody can take this record away from him. 3 minutes is not a lot of time in basketball, but to Jameson Curry, 3 minutes is a lifetime. What if I told you that I could show you every second of an NBA player's career? Every single second. Well, thanks to Jameson Curry, I can. So sit back, relax, grab some popcorn, and enjoy every second of Jason Curry's NBA career.
Third quarter, Curry substituted for Chris Kaman, which marked Curry's first ever appearance in an NBA regular season game.
That's it. Yep, that was his entire career. 3.9 seconds is how long Jason Curry was in the NBA, and the record for the shortest career in NBA history. Now I know it's crazy and a little funny that somebody had a career in the NBA shorter than this sentence that I'm saying right now, but this man has gotten jokes from everybody for this. Even though it was for a very short time, he still made it to the NBA, which is something most people will never accomplish. And for perspective on how competitive the NBA is, this guy was one of the best high school basketball players in the country. He averaged over 40 points in high school and showed a lot of potential to be great. Jason Curry is the biggest example of how difficult it is to be an NBA player. Which record do you guys think is the most unbreakable? Let me know your guys' picks in the comments below, but that's all I've got for today. Thank you all for watching. Make sure to watch my last video where I discuss the best NBA players at every other sport. But with that being said, I'm out of here, and I'll see you on the next one.